Hey, Darrah.
Hey, Steve.
Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I'm talking to Darrah Brustein, who wrote Money Making Sunny, which is a book about finance whiz kids.
That's right.
Why?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. I was fortunate to have two parents who taught me the basics of financial education from a really young age. And I think, like most children, you tend to assume that what your normal day-to-day life is what everyone else's normal day-to-day life is. And being taught about short-term and long-term savings and investments and the value of a dollar and giving back were normal parts of my everyday upbringing. And after graduating from a university with a lot of folks who came from really, well-off backgrounds and recognized that even they didn't have a concept, and I recognized that very clearly when they graduated from school with really hardy incomes, but still were living hand to mouth. And then, as we all know, we had our financial collapse just a few years ago, and it started to click for me that my upbringing may have been unusual and that people were really missing these fundamentals, and that it was more of an epidemic than just some of my peers that were missing out on this information.
All right, so clearly this is not written for your peers at
No.
Emory or your peers at Atlanta Under 40, which is a networking group that you run. Are you channeling your parents and your experience as a kid, or did you just come up with this scenario by yourself for the book?
Yeah, that's a great question. I spent some time researching what existed in the market. And originally, I was a student of personal finance myself. I read every book I can on the subject just because I think it's important to keep yourself sharp. So I felt like there were plenty of resources out there for adults, but very few for children. And the more I studied the children's market, I recognized that most of the materials focused on college-age students, sometimes high school, and sporadically middle school. Very, very rarely did I find anything for elementary age students or younger. And more so when they tended to focus on the parents having to learn the material and then regurgitate it, rather than being able to give the child something that would be on his or her level and that they could enjoy on their own, and that the parent could then just be a part of, rather than having to be the cat or having to be the can't think of the word that I'm thinking of, but having to be the vessel through which the information comes directly.
Right, the channel. So do you imagine moms and dads sitting down with this book around bedtime or maybe right after dinner and putting a 5-year-old on their knee and reading to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the book is generally targeting elementary school children. So we recently received a video from a 5-year-old, well, from the uncle of a 5-year-old, but the 5-year-old was reading the book to his family. I recently got word from another customer who had his 7-year-old son read the book to him as the parent, and then he regurgitated back to him what he got out of it. And so I think it just depends on the level of the child. The book is certainly a little advanced for someone who's first starting to read, so in that case, you would need the adult walking through it with the child, reading it along, helping to facilitate the conversation. But again, I think it really helps take away some of the taboo nature or the fear that a parent might have of, do I know enough? How do I put this at a level that's child appropriate? Or when the child is old enough, 6 plus perhaps, to read it on their own, that they can read it with the parent nearby and that the parent can then just engage in the conversation.
Okay, but let's go back to your earlier statement where you said that the parents themselves, your peers, kids, I don't mean kids, I mean young people coming out of Emory, didn't have any basics. What if the kid asks them a question that they can't answer? Do you envision having a workbook coming along or a parent's guide? The teacher's editions always had this stuff in the back where they would explain the textbooks had stuff in the back. Do you imagine something like that?
Well, it exists. In the back of the book, there is an appendix for the adult. So the intention is that once the child or you and the child have read the book together, that the parent knows the parent knows how to institute the lessons from the book. And I really harp on the fact that I don't want any adult to feel like they have to take these lessons at face value, that they have to take them and put them into their households exactly as they've been laid out, that they should really just use them as basic parameters and conversation starters, and that they should take whatever their values are, whatever their means are, to then put them into their home in a way that's comfortable for them. But more than that, I also really urge the parents not to find themselves in a place where they think they have to perfect a system about talking about money or instituting a money plan into their home, but rather start and then tweak. Otherwise, they're losing valuable time.
Now, I notice also, I happen to know you. I know that you're a good person and you're a moral person and an honest person. As I read through the book, I think I see some of you in here. There's good habits about sharing, about working together. The one where the two characters are working on their allowance, and if they pool their various resources, they'll be able to go to the movies together. I mean, are there some moral lessons and ethical lessons in here as well?
I mean, I think it's important. Let me say this first. There's 6 books in the series, and they all cover different topics. This is just the first, and this one talks specifically about the value of a dollar, short-term and long-term savings, and working towards a financial goal. But some of the future books talk specifically about how money is not the end-all, be-all, and what balance in one's life is about, and one is specifically about giving back, and one is about entrepreneurship and, you know, how to do for yourself. And so I say that to explain that I think there's more to the money than just where does it come from and how do I save it versus spend it. And
so wait a minute. In other words, you're teaching 5 to 7-year-olds about entrepreneurship. Are we opening a lemonade stand or what?
In the book, and again, this isn't out yet, but in the book about entrepreneurship, Sunny, the main character, she decides that she wants something that's beyond what she'd be able to get through her regular allowance. It would take her much too long for her willingness. So she decides to go do odd jobs around the community for her neighbors, whether that's mowing the lawn or helping them take out the trash. And so she ends up burning out because she feels like she can't balance her chores at home with her regular allowance, her family, her friend Daisy, her school, and then this extra work.
Okay. By the way, when you get to the article or the book, the chapter, whatever it is, on entrepreneurship with opening the lemonade stand, call me. My children had a lemonade stand 3 years running, and they made tons of money,
Really?
and I lost hundreds of dollars. So,
Did you buy it all?
children don't understand about the cost of goods, but we'll get to that in another book.
Supply chain.
So let me ask you this now. What kind of reaction are you getting from people, parents of kids or teachers perhaps? What's the reaction to people who are buying the book?
It's been overwhelmingly enthusiastic. Everyone's saying that as a parent who really is concerned with the future of their children, or as a teacher concerned with how their students will grow up into their adulthood and wanting to teach them valuable life lessons that will actually be applicable to their future, they really appreciate that it's a resource that is engaging, it's colorful, it's fun, but that it's something that the children can understand and that they don't find to be a barrier to their understanding what can be a seemingly complicated lesson.
Okay. I mean, this is all great. And I, as you know, perhaps, I taught school for a little while, and when you talk about this being engaging and being colorful, we had sort of an economics 101. It was life lesson economics, not macro or micro or business, where they just taught kids to budget and how to plan their lives, how to write a resume. Can you ever imagine taking this book or these concepts up a level? Because I happen to know that there's a need for that really in the middle school, in the high school, where it's engaging. Do you think you could bring this concept to another level?
I mean, certainly. I think for me, I really want to focus on my initial target audience, which is younger children than that, because I really feel that, and statistics show that children can start learning about money as early as age 3. And I think that the longer we wait to help them create valuable patterns and habits around money, the more time that we're spending creating potentially negative or destructive ones. So for me, it's really important to start young, and not to say that that would never be a target audience, but I really want to focus initially on these 6 books for that age, and then potentially go into other media formats than just a printed book and an ebook. And from there, maybe we could go into older topics, but I really want to do this well.
Well, this is terrific. So talk to me a little bit, talking about doing this well. You had help on this book. You had some collaborators. Tell me a little bit about the people who worked with you on the book.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting process. I mean, you know from our working together that my day-to-day life is in doing credit card processing, and the publishing world is so far removed from anything I have in my general knowledge base. So it took years to learn how to translate words on a page and a vision in my mind into this printed material. And so through a lot of networking with other children's book authors, I was able to find the illustrator, Mike Woodcock, and find my editor and layout artist, Jennifer Thomas, both who were incredible and really helped teach me all the things that one layperson may not know about creating a book, whether it's everything from getting a barcode and an ISBN to working with my intellectual property attorney, Camille Dazan, who's a close friend of mine, on the trademarking and copywriting and how to file with the Library of Congress, or how to create EPUB and .mobi files to go from one format to another, and then the whole world of printing and traditional publishing versus self-publishing. And there's so much to learn, and so that's why it took so long.
Well, that'll be your next children's book. You can talk about how to publish a book, entrepreneurship.
You're right.
But, tell me a little bit more about the illustrations. I have to tell you, I think they're spectacular. Who's the illustrator again, and how did you... His name
is Michael Woodcock, and he's out of Orlando, Florida, and obviously we're here in Atlanta. So a beauty of being able to work with technology. And I think it's interesting. He used to work for Disney and decided to go out on his own, and we just met at a really great time where he was ready to do this, and I needed someone who was able to take my concept in my mind and translate it to paper. And I think it's interesting and a challenge for anyone who's not the creative, and you as a marketing guy probably get this, that I have an image in my head, and how do I verbalize what that is to someone else? And so we went back and forth in many derivations before we got to this. And even now, it's not 100% what I thought of, but that's not because it's better or worse. But I think ultimately our collaboration made it what it was, or what it is.
Great. It's really a terrific book, and it came out, I hope you love it, because it's a terrific book. When are you going to roll out the additional books in the series?
I'm not sure yet. At this point, the book has only been out briefly, and I've been really focused on trying to create corporate partnerships with financial institutions, whether that be banks or investment companies or financial planning companies or insurance firms. And in the process of doing that, I'm really just trying to create a foundation, get feedback, make sure that I'm on the right path before I invest the time, money, and resources into books 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's definitely on the radar. They're all written. It's just a matter of gaining momentum.
And how are sales so far?
Sales are great, but I'm really focusing on trying to get those corporate collaborations, both from the perspective of trying to have those institutions give these books to their customers to showcase how invested they are in their children's futures, as well as partnering with their foundations to give to nonprofits who are interested in the resources but can't afford them themselves. And so I think, like we all may know from working with bigger, more bureaucratic agencies, it takes a long time to make those connections and get through those systems. But otherwise, the book is selling well on Amazon, but that's just not been my focus.
Well, that's great. So I purchased 4 copies. One is for me, which, of course, as I've said to you, I want autographed, because when you're rich and famous, I'll have it in my collection. The other 3 copies I would like to give away on our behalf to a worthy school or a home or an institution. Have you any thoughts on that? To whom could we give these 3 other books for a Christmas gift?
Well, I think it might be fun to take our Facebook page and put out there maybe some sort of contest, or ask people to submit names of schools or organizations that they think would benefit from it, and we could pick a winner based on those submissions.
Done. Good idea. I love it. Thank you. Thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you.
All right.